So today's exercise for the viewers and listeners will be using the knowledge flower. So Fernando wished to use the knowledge flower or to be trained in the knowledge flower. And for those who are not aware of what the knowledge flower is, it's basically an inventory of values that I or for which I make the claim that these are the exact values that we assign to knowledge opposed to information. And the five values are reliability, relevance, usefulness, beauty, and simplicity. So there's an article on the website that has just a tiny bit more of information, but what we are talking about now will be pretty much self-explanatory. So we will use a framework of thinking to increase the value of ideas and use it to create more depth of processing. So this is the gist. I don't greet Fernando because we are talking now for half an hour, so this would be artificial. So let's go into the note. So the myth of lone genius is yeah. So Fernando, explain what you mean by this myth. What is the idea we are dealing with?
Well, first, it is an idea from So Your Work
Mm,
of Austin Kleon. And the idea is that if you want to do creative work, you need to have the right um, expectation of what the creative work really is. So there is, or normally when we think about somebody that is a genius, we think of the lone genius, no? Somebody
mm,
that is very smart or very, I don't know, very creative. It that person appears out of nowhere. There is not context or not relevant context for that person. He or she has a moment of sudden inspiration when, okay, now I know how to do the light bulb, no? Then he dedicates the entire life to only work on that masterpiece. And finally, he builds a totally new, totally useful work of art or work of knowledge.
mm,
So for me, I see this as a really toxic idea to have in mind because creative work is more an incremental and I don't know collaborative process.
mm,
Collaborative in the sense of ideas. Maybe you are competing with each other with a different person, but the ideas need to collaborate to build new things.
mm,
So this is idea that I had from 2023 and I'm using it a lot, but I haven't gone deep into.
mm,
I mean, I use it, but I know that there is more value, no, to explain or
mhm.
to provide.
Okay, so um, the first leaf that it's kind of like the standard workflow. So it's not that you need to start with reliability all the time, especially if you have inspiration. So if you have inspiration, you just go by inspiration and then afterwards see if other leaves could be useful. But to me now, it seems to be useful to think about the reliability. So one of the problems that I personally see with such let's say, um, I don't want to say inventions because it sounds too much as if the author like pulled something out of his or her ass. But um, whenever I read about such things, I want to make sure that I'm not dealing with a straw man. Um, I mean, it sounds to me almost like a cliche. So what we could do now is to, because you already made a good job of having all the aspects of the myth written in a list. So this gives us like very nice access to each component of the myth. So do you feel that each component is actually um, a widespread myth, in, let's say, in the internet, in your circle of friends or wherever?
Uh, do you mean that each one of the steps is a myth on itself, no?
Mhm.
No, there are some ones that are not a myth. For example, the moment of sudden inspiration happens.
Mhm.
This also happens, but and also this can happen. But I think it's more a matter that this is a consequence of other things. I mean, this is not what makes somebody a genius. It's the previous work. I mean,
Mhm.
that's my interpretation, no?
Mhm.
So normally the myth is more on this part, on the
Mm.
on
Yeah,
my
so
opinion.
where I was getting at is the question if it's actually a myth or if it's something like a scapegoat that the author creates. So
Mm,
what I or it's similar to when so whenever you hear about a podcaster or YouTuber or whoever like creates content says, I'm asked all the time, then you know, okay, it's once or twice that he was asked, and then he infers about the silent majority that the silent majority also has this question, and it's kind of like a like quote unquote functional delusion to assume that many people think like that, because then you have a good reason to create this piece of content instead of thinking. Okay, two people asked me this very specific question, and I will answer it, and it's not relevant. Therefore, or not relevant to my audience, and therefore not it's not rational to produce a type of content about it. So what or the reliability aspect would entail testing if this is a widespread myth or if it's a very specific thing that can be believed and then is harmful. So this would isolate the idea and make it or like confines the relevance. So now you can, or this is a connection then between reliability and relevance. So it's not, yeah, it's not that clear cut because my theory is not completely developed. But it's a recurring theme that when you think about one leaf, there is some influence on the other leaves, because I think there is some universal pattern at play that I didn't tease out. So um, then I just state that what you can do is to go out or seek empirical evidence for the widespreadness of each component. So, like just from my instinct, I would say that creativity or that uh, um, it's widely believed that the creative person is somehow superhuman. So there is a trait that cannot be learned and that cannot be trained, that is also rare, and therefore creativity is something that is gifted. And if you don't feel creative, then yeah, it's good, or it's treated as good enough evidence that you don't even have to try to do creative endeavors. So this is how I would then attack it because of the nature of my work. Because I always ask myself, I ask those more universal questions because I publish and communicate to other people. So for you, for example, it can be good enough. So it can be good enough because if you feel that that yourself believed in that in whatever now is encapsulated in the myth, then it's a good enough or it's good enough reliability for own personal work because then you have yeah, it's 100% reliability because you already believed in it, and then you can trust your past or your belief, and then the reliability is not so interesting. So, which route do you want to go? So, do we want to assume, okay, this is now a personal reflection, and then you want to learn more about what you what yourself believe about creativity, or do we want to write with other people or communicating to other people in mind?
mm, I mean, I would prefer because for me this is enough value. So I would prefer to be able to communicate to somebody else. So I
Mm-hmm.
would prefer that second pathway to.
Mm. Okay, then this would be a task. So you would develop then um, um, the aspect of reliability in, or you could do it in two ways. So the first way is to seek out empirical evidence, because if this is a myth, is an empirical question, because something being a myth means that people actually believe in it. If it's not, then it's not a myth. And the other is, are these or the individual components actually problems that are regular happening in, let's say, in the field of creativity. So, I mean, the problem is that these are, um, I would say, like quite self-evident, because these are the common struggles of people that want to do creative work, especially in fields, from my experience, that are not thought as creative. So people are oblivious. So, for example, scientists. So scientists don't think of themselves creative in the same way as artists think of them as creative, but still they need to have the same muscles, the creative muscle, meaning generate ideas, making far-fetched connections, and so on and so forth. So this would be the aspect of reliability. So this is what you can then do. So obviously this would entail like actually practical work. So this would be actually boring. So for the both of us, because on no, for actually it would be just boring for me, because now you would go off yeah, in the internet, search for empirical evidence for that, and I would like fiddle my thumbs and perhaps give you encouragement like go Fernando, and you can
Yes.
and seek out the empirical evidence and wait until you have it. So the next leaf.
And one question. So, where do I do the thinking about reliability? Do I do it in this node or in
Yeah,
a different place?
yeah. I would always no, it's always on the note. I can think of a use case in which it makes sense to open another node just for thinking about the reliability. So in when you are finished with your thinking process, then it makes sense to like clean up the mess and make it more atomic. Especially if one leaf becomes like really big. So if you let's say now you do like a huge you collect a huge amount of empirical evidence for the reliability that this is widespread myth, and then you go into each detail, and then you make a table about that in which you have like components, or you weigh the components. So let's say the first component, the belief that the individual has superhuman abilities, is believed by 90%, and the next one by 87%, and the next one just by 55%. And then you go this route, for example. This should belong on a node, because having this all on this node would make this node less functional. And then the atomicity is kind of like the natural result of you trying to make this node more functional, but it shouldn't be the input. So, because the input would hinder you, because then it's a lot of like clicking back and forth, because perhaps you need to look something up. Perhaps you then have like three monitors, and then you like shuffle
Mm.
around all the windows, and this creates a lot of mess. So I like to have it just on one node as a thinking canvas, and then atomicity would be then uh, um, atomicity would be the end result when your thinking is, let's say, the material of your thinking is there, and then you just like clean it up. Everything is tidy, both in your Zellkasten and in your mind.
Okay, so it would be like a structured node in the sense that you can have sections and
Mhm.
h- I mean something like that, like this, no?
Yeah.
And I can do well, find the evidence, no?
Mhm.
And then we can go for even simplicity or the other ones.
Yeah. So this would be like a really formal approach that is nice, or that is good when this thinking is still, or this framework is still alien to you. And the more familiar you are, then the less like let's say formal you can be, because then you kind of like see it, or see the meaning behind whatever you have on your note. So, and I want to praise you. You interrupted me, so this is a very good habit when you deal with me. Um, Next one would be relevance. So, if we are talking about yeah, about like, or when we think about this idea in the realm of we wanting to communicate to others, um, then also because you have access now to each component, it would be a good way of thinking in which way is it relevant to what kind of person. So do you have any like framework in which you would think about the relevance?
I mean, I don't have any formal framework. I have the
Okay.
intuition that
Mm,
if you think in this myth, you are killing your creativity.
mhm,
That so it is relevant in that sense that this can be a huge problem for you if you
mhm,
are into this myth.
mhm. Okay. Um, so when I think about relevance, I or one of the primary frameworks is scope. So
Okay.
this myth, I make a bold claim. I don't think it's a universal, not a universal problem. So it's not part of the human condition, meaning it's not important for any person for all the time to deal with this myth. So obviously it's for people that for them, or that for which creativity is important. So we narrowed it down in relevance. So relevance could be also seen as a target. And the more precise you can be, the harder you can shoot, like almost as a sharpshooter. But also, the wider you can shoot, the more of the problem, or the more of the problem you can attack at the same time. So another way of thinking about relevance is of components of people. So this is where I try to get. I don't think I made a good job like conveying what I mean made by my framework. So I give you just one idea that I have with this note. So one idea would be um, targeting different temperaments. So I would see so the let's say the Big Five temperament scale is something like a theory of personality, and we would, or in that case, we would treat the five inventor the five the Big Five as not a universal theory, but something like a complete model of personal behavior. That means we would think about how is this relevant for agreeable people or disagreeable people? How is it relevant for let's say people that are open, or people that are not so open, for example? And then you would ask yourself, okay, how is it targeting, or is this myth targeting a specific trait? So, for example, a very agreeable, or not, let's say, a person that's not very assertive. So, assertive being a subcomponent of extroversion. Um, for them, especially if they are high in neuroticism, so meaning like a sensitivity to negative emotion and or uncertainty. For them, this myth would be especially problematic, because or this would be a challenge to what we would call self-esteem, and therefore it would be very relevant for them. So this would be the path to the howness of dealing with problems of low self-esteem in the realm of creativity. So the image that I make, or that I use to think about the relevance, is then I come from the human condition. So the question would be, is it relevant to all people? I would narrow it down so it can be, let's say, more abstract. In that case, it's about creative people, which is kind of like an abstraction. Or I would use examples. So I would take myself as an example and then just people that I know like reasonably well. So I can pretend that I can explain the relevance of this to them and therefore have this concrete like mental dialogue that I can imagine as a fuel to actually like think about the idea. So this is how you could think about the relevance. So tying back to the values, I mean reliability. I think it's a really straightforward value and doesn't need a lot of explanation. I think because of it might be because of the Western culture, because we think very like let's say isolationist. So it's about empirical evidence, arguments, and this kind of stuff. But I might be wrong. I don't know. So I didn't contrast it enough to make this claim with confidence. So with relevance now, you play with the scope of the idea. So the scope of the idea would be obviously the biggest scope of the idea is um, if it's targeting the human condition, and a very small scope of the idea would be if it's just targeting a very specific part of a specific type of person. And the smallest obviously would be if it's like a truly personal problem. I mean, it can be a personal problem because it's a more universal pattern, but if you would, for example, you don't think about the relevance of a specific nightmare that you now have in your diary because just your nightmare. So the relevance is kind of like obvious, it's just for you or relevant. So this would be, yeah, so uh, um,
So the idea is to be clear on which is the specific group of people that could be interested on this idea, no?
yeah.
To be and there's some arbitrariness, no? That you can choose a bigger or smaller. For example, I could target PhD students on their first year, or I could target knowledge workers in general, no? And that's my personal decision, no? That because I want to focus on them.
Yeah, 100%. So it's so there is a non-subjective part because you have to be right because for example this is not a widespread myth, for example, for I believe for carpenters or workers for the on the assembly line. But if you are correct enough, then you can pick and choose. Then you are free to explore the idea based on the or with specific targets. So how is it relevant for teachers? How is it relevant for let's say artists and whatnot? Yeah. And then obviously for your own writing. So let's assume that you work in academia and you are teaching or helping PhD students with the common issues of the first year being in a PhD, then obviously this would be targeted to your specific to the specific audience you want to communicate to. But yeah, so so scope has kind of like two directions. So the one direction is kind of like multiple people, so type of people, group of people, human condition, stuff like that. And the other aspect is part of the people. So is it about personality, specific life situations, so components of an individual person or components of a type of person. So yeah, and also this would happen on all on the same node. Then, yeah, the next leaf would be utility. So this, yeah, this, I mean, what is useful is obviously in some way relevant. So these components are not like exactly completely distinct. I think about relevance as the target and utility as the howness of the target is achieved or how you point at the target. So in many cases, when you describe why something is relevant, the usefulness is embedded into it, which kind of like either it weakens the model because or weakens the trust in the model because it's not very clear cut, or the differences are not that clear cut. So this would be evidence for the model not being well constructed, or it would be supportive because of my claim that each of the value giving traits has influence on the others. So the more you increase reliability, the more likelihood you have that it's relevant, useful, and stuff like that. So yeah, just to give you a meta layer of like thinking about the model itself. So utility. Do you have any ideas how to attack this leaf?
Mm, when I think about utilities, mainly how to make a change in my workflow or somebody else's workflow for good, no? So I'm thinking on utility on that sense. So it is that the good way of thinking about utility, or is a different thing?
Mhm. Okay, can you compress this into one statement or sentence?
Uh, uh, so then when I think about utilities, what do I have to change in my life to
Mhm.
improve it?
Mhm.
That would be how I think about utility.
Mhm.
I mean, not on this particular idea. I mean, in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But specific on this. So what would be uh,
Okay, so
um,
on this, I mean, for example, this node is I mean, this is something useful that you can take advantage of the collaborative genius to solve your problems. So
mhm.
what I did is just to show it to you. I did the opposite myth.
Mhm.
Totally the opposite. That a normal individual that lives in a community identifies a gap of knowledge on that community, uses the community ideas and tools, and then he creates something useful for the community, no?
Mhm.
So for me, this is useful because this is the way that should I work, no?
Mhm.
This tell me, okay, you need to be integrated somewhere to solve problems that somebody else needs to solve, and then you need to use the ideas and tools from that community, or at least know them, no? Maybe you have your own that are better, but so for me, this is the useful way of thinking about this, no?
Mhm.
I don't know if it is on this path that I should think, or
Um, no, no, or yeah, this would be. mm, Yeah, so you are describing, you would, oh, I mean, you use the trick, so you can just invert the idea and ask the what if the opposite would be true.
yes.
This would be, I don't know if it's classical, but it's, let's say, one of the more useful thinking tools that you can employ to explore an idea. So where I'm getting it is uh, the exact applications of dealing with the myth. So
Okay.
dealing with the myth, so the myth of the lonely genius is, I mean the yeah when we think about the utility of this idea, obviously
Okay.
we don't think about the utility of the myth itself, but more about our own judgments about the idea, because the myth itself it's like a given now in our assumption that this myth is harmful. So
Yes.
this is also how you can attack utility. So it would be just the inversion of, or the negative value of utility. So you could write and think about how is this damaging to the way people like actually conduct themselves in the world. So it would be damaging, for example. So now you could bring it together, yeah, also with relevance. So it could be damaging, especially for people that are high neuroticism, low in assertiveness, and especially when it's coupled also with low in conscientiousness especially in industriousness, because then people don't or they fall temperamentally most or more easily for ideas that confirm their belief in that value is created just on the fly and not part of a very like boring like blue collar type working process. Um, but now, so the next thing would be thinking about, okay, how can we actually um, create useful stuff um, when we think about the eradication of the myth. So I give you just one idea so you know what I mean. So uh, um, one of my own ideas on how new ideas emerge is this bottom-up pressure. So instead of thinking, okay, I need to like beg for my muse to send me an idea from the heavens, I say we just go like or repeat the basics, like process ideas of other people, be very precise, try to make our best to submit to other people's ideas, and then like see similarities and be very, let's say, yeah, submissive to the thinking of other people. And the more we do it, the more we can't help but see more and more universal patterns. And then over time, if you build your knowledge, then something that you are seeing is not what you find out there. So you see something like very clear in front of your eyes, but you can't find any other person that thought about this connection or this pattern. And this would be then how you have your own idea. And to me, this is a more how to say, it's more reproducible. It's a more reproducible process. So I like to think about ideas, and for me personally, it's very relevant because I am not open in my temperament. So I'm highly interested in abstract ideas. So in the Big Five temperament scale, it's called intellect. So it doesn't have to do with anything to do with intelligence, but just an interest in abstract ideas. But I don't know if it's like very low or just low in openness to experience. And this is called, or this trait is the closest that we now get to describe creativity. So just by temperament, I'm not a creative person. But based on my experience, I have a lot of like new ideas. And I think this is just because of the way how I work. So I don't have ideas just because I have access to like random connections, but I have ideas because I have this bottom-up process. And what I'm good at is to to bring a lot of ideas together, and therefore the chance of me having this bottom-up pressure or the ideas through the bottom-up pressure is just higher. And this is why I can come up with let's say compared to the average more ideas, but it's just my blue collar work type of dealing or way of dealing with knowledge and creativity. So the utility would be in that case that instead, or when you reject this myth, then it opens you up to this blue collar creativity method. And then I would directly think about, okay, what can I now do to increase the likelihood of creative, let's say, incidences or accidents. Or how did Bob Ross say it? Happy incidents or happy accidents? Happy accidents.
Happy accidents.
Yeah.
Yes.
How could I increase the likelihood of happy accidents in my work? And for me, I mean, I already answered it. So for me, it's I need to learn how other people think, and I need to process a lot of or need to process other people's ideas, and then slowly, when I created enough pressure, I will have my own ideas, which is for me, let's say, important because I don't like to view me as an influencer or a content creator because I think the problem with this profession is that um, you're over incentivized to create something new just because of the sakeness of the newness, to create attention and then monetize on this attention. And so I don't want yeah, I don't want to attach myself to that, but I think the way how I work, at least my ideas are genuine, and then I can have with good conscience can advertise these ideas as actually something something new because it's based on this process. So I hope I didn't butcher my own thinking process like that. So this would be something that I now would write down. So the actual useful applications of the thinking processes behind now this value creation. So you can think also about the usefulness in light of the relevance. So I thought about this in light of the relevance, especially in light of specific temperaments. Because, for example, I'm a very assertive person and have apparently almost no neuroticism based on my temperament, at least according to the test. So for me, it's not about my self-esteem, but for me, it's about dealing with my lack of sympathy for this like chaotic artist idea about creativity because I'm not very open, so I don't like this. I don't like to create chaos, or I don't like to use all these kind of like insane creative techniques, like using finger colors on the wall to like get a new argument or whatever. So I mean, I don't make any claims of this working or not working. It's just what I really don't like. So this opens me up, or would be open me up, to be creative in spite of my temperament, and don't let my temperament be an obstacle. So this would be a direct, useful application of me rejecting this idea, for example. And this is how I would
Okay.
then think about utility.
Okay. Because in my case, or my background is that I like to do everything by my own.
Hmm.
I'm very solitary in that sense.
Hmm.
So many times I reinvent the wheel, no? I'm doing something that somebody else did before.
Hmm.
So I'm not generating, I mean, I'm training myself and now I know, but I'm not generating value for somebody else. I'm just
Hmm.
reinventing the wheel, no? For me, that's the usefulness of reacting this idea that if I want to be a genius, a real genius, I need to be connected to the world
Hmm.
to understand what is there and what could I provide that is useful for somebody else.
Hmm.
So this thinking would be part of the utility, no, of why this idea is useful for.
Hmm.
I mean, this is for myself, no,
Yeah.
but that would be the type of ideas, not
Mhm.
to think.
So can you come up with a couple of direct ways how you would or will take action based on your rejection of the myth?
Uh, yes. Mm, so I have these three notes. Wait, sorry. So the first one is that if you want to write useful fiction, this is an idea from Write Useful Books.
Hmm.
So I combine both ideas, no? So you don't need to be a lonely genius to write good and useful non-fiction. What you need to do is to be the collaborative genius.
Hmm.
So that's a way that for me is easy to take action, no? Because
Hmm.
what I need to do is to find a community, understand what community is doing, and then providing more value to
Hmm.
that community. And that way, I will be a not the lonely genius. I will be the collaborative genius that I'm doing stuff that is useful. So that would be one way to action that idea.
Just to summarize, so I understood you correctly. So, the way how you would take action is instead of working on your own, you would integrate into a community and just um, take part in the collective thinking.
Yes, yes,
Ah.
and to take part on the discussion, on the public discussion, no? Similar
Mm-hmm.
to what we do in the Zettelkasten forum, that
Mm-hmm.
you can go there and contribute, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that way you are providing a lot of value.
Mm-hmm.
And that I didn't do that before. This is
Mm-hmm.
a change on my action after I understood
Mm-hmm.
this idea.
So, I mean, it's almost a rhetorical question, but I guess then you are introverted.
Yes, I mean, I mean, I am not very introverted, but I tend to be introverted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I prefer to be on my own thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to connect myself to the world, no? Because
Mm-hmm.
if not, I'm not doing something, nothing.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm so I was asking I was probing because of the relevance relevance framework. Because for you as an introvert, so this would be bringing those together. So if you feel as an introvert, so for full context, I think or based on my test, I'm very extroverted. I'm very assertive, and I'm exceptionally assertive, but and high or very high in enthusiasm. But I rarely get so. I mean, the real difference between introversion and extroversion I think is not about how you act and you are able to act, but if you get or gain energy or lose energy in particular social interactions. So I think I gain energy up to a point in which there are 3 to 4 people present. And when it's more, I lose energy. So I don't like parties. I don't even like to go and drink coffee in the public or something like that because for me it's draining energy. But I really like to discuss like one-on-one on and stuff like that. So I guess for you then also it's or this would be the utility dealing with your own temperament, meaning it could be for you. So if you actually lose energy in particular context, it would be the utility would be also conscious of the energy balance that you create. So for me, for example, so when I have a discussion let's say on in the internet, especially, um, I get split personality. So my mind clings to that, and then sometimes if I have a disagreement, I think about that in my free time when my dog think my dog what is the exact argument and stuff like that because I'm not because I think someone is not wrong in the internet and now my life is exploding, but it's I cling to like subject or discussions or something like that. So it's driving me, but at the same time, it's very exhaustive. So I need to be careful about that. And for you, it might be a different kind of thing. So, for example, when you are not, so I don't know. I mean, my attention also goes to conflict. So when I see conflict, I view through the lens of is it actually driving forward the truth-seeking process? Because sometimes I feel people are just I really get annoyed when people are in a discussion just to like prove their point, or when it becomes like an ego thing then I get really annoyed, and I'm not holding back with my annoyance most of the time. But this is also it's kind of like a price that I pay because I think my annoyance will help the discussion because many people are very diplomatic and therefore let kind of like the ego of people that just try to push their point they don't check it. And I think at least I'm annoyed enough to check the egos of people. So at least this is my obviously it's my perspective. So I mean, the people on the other side might see it differently and see my behavior also in a different light. But nevertheless, so yeah, for you it might be asking yourself, okay, do I gain energy or is it an energy drain? And then be conscious of how you like engage. So if you, for example, if it's like a huge energy drain to engage in a community because you're like hyper introverted, then obviously you will be more selective. And then make it obvious in your schedule. So it can be that you don't allow yourself to access the discussions on a regular basis, but say, okay, like 3 times a week, I will see what people feel, and if they have good ideas, or if I can contribute and solve or help other people with problems, I will do it because I feel okay. This is how I will also myself. So it's kind of like it's a win-win situation because I create value, but I also gain a lot myself. But at the same time, don't drain myself because of all the downsides of extreme introversion. I mean, obviously, you are not extremely introverted. Or on the other side, if you are very extroverted, then you might be um, then you perhaps are more conscious about mistaking the interaction for value creation. So this is also a
Yes.
weakness of extroverted people. Also, I think of mine. So the interaction in many times is not productive, but this is how extroverted people get drawn into internet or online discussions because they are drawn to this kind of interaction, and then they try to engage with all the stuff with all the threads, and especially if you have a bottomless pit like Reddit or Twitter or whatnot, and then you become addicted to that by this or based on your extroversion, which is also, by the way, a weakness of mine. So I think I have the worst of both worlds of extroversion and introversion for some reason.
So
Um,
I just had an idea because imagine I explain this to a really extrovert person,
mhm,
no, that you need to collaborate even more. So maybe I'm making a problem
mhm,
because he's going to go deep into what he has not and he shouldn't do, no?
mhm,
So that's the relevance part, no? That mm, maybe it is not universally useful. It's only useful this advice for some a small group or big group of people.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So, but this is how I would say, or this is how I try to think about utility, at least in part. So, not only making claims about the utility itself, but also the direct application. So, what are, for example, tasks that you can put in your task manager? So
Yes.
task might be, I don't know, create, let's say, block all access to communities. Let's in the case of a very introverted person, block all access, but open it up on specific, let's say, days, and then create a real-time task. Okay, like look up for inspiration or situation in which you can help on online community. I mean, it's an extreme constructed example, but this would be at least one. So, or another, let's say, what we personal. So, um, yeah, okay. So how I did it with code adaptation training. So I heard about the utility, and I never had any like in 2012 or something like that, 2013. I never heard about going to extremes, meaning extremes like being like 20 minutes in 0 degrees water and stuff like that. And then I made a plan, and then it was became a project, for example. So it was not just me thinking about okay, code adaptation training is good for your immune system and stuff like that, but it would actually go to my actual plans, like buying a barrel and like putting it somewhere where it can be cold, and then thinking about the routine that I do, so morning, evening, or whatnot. So this is would be a direct or yeah, a direct application of the leaf of utility. So ask yourself, what are the actual actions that you now want to take or the projects that you want to start?
Okay. Yes. It makes sense. I see it.
So, beauty. Yeah, beauty is always uh, yeah, I think it's the most difficult thing. So with beauty, I don't mean so beauty is the positive side and hideousness is the negative side. And I think when I think about the beauty, I think about both sides because even hideousness sometimes or it's an eye catcher. Perhaps beauty could be also um, strength of aesthetics or something like that. I don't have a good concept, so I'm stuck with the label beauty. But do you have any like intuitions about the beauty of this myth, or the rejection of the myth?
Mm, I mean, I see that mm, this is an underlying pattern that you need ideas need to collaborate to have really good ideas.
Mhm.
So for me, that type of collaboration is beauty, but I don't know if it is the type of thing that you're thinking,
Mhm.
because for me, it's so elegant that ideas need to meet. I mean, collaborate and also confront, no, to clash with each other. No, that for me that is beauty, no, to
Mhm.
think on that, no, that ideas. I mean, people can collaborate or compete. That has a different level. So, but I like a lot thinking on that, no,
Mhm.
just for the pleasure of imagine that
Mhm.
scenario, no.
Yeah, this would be so, or I would think, I think very similar, because I think, because I was burned when I was 13, so I was playing in a soccer in a club, and I was in the middle field, so I was running a lot, and our attack players, they didn't do any shit. So I don't say any names, but if you remember me now, you know that you didn't put in the work, and I was really off put. So I basically killed myself during the games, and they were. My boxing trainer said that some people are not even wet under the tongue when they work out. So this was the level of laziness they had, and they were like really talented players. So they were, based on the talents, they were far better than me. And this is one of the, or this was how I was burned for, let's say, like bigger teams. So and it's a through line through my work. So I value independence very much. And I mean, I'm not subject to the myth, but if I would be subject to the myth, and or I was subject to the myth, um, I would I would see this image of the lone genius just being, let's say, being a genius on his own as something really beautiful. And it shows, even so, I started a fantasy novel when I was 8 years old, and it was all about this elf that was like an awesome fighter. Obviously, I was an 8-year-old boy, so he had to be an awesome fighter. He could do like awesome magic and stuff, and he was always on his own. And this aspect, I mean, this has obviously nothing to do with my soccer story, but my mind was clinging to this loner, awesome kind of guy. I think the modern term for this in the internet is the Sigma male. So it invokes, I mean, it's aesthetically pleasing, this image. And for me, so this is how beauty, or beauty is interesting to think about. So for me, it would be another insight in how I would fall for this myth. And I mean, when I now like imagine this, the lone genius is, I think it's more sexy than the, let's say, the useful collaborator.
Yes.
So still, still, I'm vulnerable to this myth in some way. I think because of my very intense, like, let's say, comparably intense attraction to the lone genius opposed to the useful collaborator. Even in spite of me consciously knowing that the useful collaborator and contributor most likely will create value more reliable and more over the lifetime than the lone genius, let's say, as a cohort, because there are a lot of lone, let's say, genius attempters that don't produce any value. So it's a insanely high risk, and I don't know, I don't know how much the reward is, but I don't think or the risk to benefit ratio is as positive for the genius or the lone genius as opposed to the collaborator, especially in the light that most lone geniuses have a long period in which they submit to, let's say, to submit to the classics. So, for example, or the most famous example is Pablo Picasso, who kind of like trained or was trained by his father to be able to draw like photorealistic before he made all his like quote unquote true artist work. So yeah, the aesthetics is or the beauty or think about beauty is a gateway to access your intuition. And for me, or this actually this is for me a new insight. I mean, it's not like insanely new, but I surprised myself now just talking about that I might be still vulnerable to this myth, even though in the beginning, to be honest, I thought, okay, who? I think it's kind of like an amateur mistake to fall for this myth. But either I'm now I expose myself as an amateur, or even though I move beyond the amateur state of creative work, I'm still vulnerable to the myth, so it's not an amateur mistake. So either is true, but what is like very likely true is that I still have work to perform on myself because I feel that I'm still vulnerable to this myth. So this would be, or I try to illustrate the way of thinking about beauty. So I'm asking my intuition and I try to create an image either on the beauty or on the hideousness. In that case, the beauty, and I mean it's a false beauty. So it's the beauty of the, let's say, the handsome killer or something like that.
Yes. 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 So maybe here I should spend my time
Mm.
trying to explain that the sexiness of the lonely genius is really bad. That you shouldn't fall for that. It's like being a handsome assassin, no? That
Mhm.
that that's okay. Okay, I see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so
This
I
is
mean, this
just
is also it's a very nice, let's say, hybrid, or it's a hybrid way of writing between fiction and non-fiction. So when I myself am working with this leaf of the Norse flower, um, a lot of times I like bounce back and forth. So a real world example is that in 2018, so I don't have this eidetic memory. It's just I happen to know this note or this idea well. Um, I thought about how during the maturity of or maturing of religion, so from believing that every stone has a spirit and stuff like that, through the integration through like gods and demons, and then culminating in um, monotheistic religions. So this would be the most ordered kind of type of religion. um, how in during the collective thinking process of coming to this more orderly way of thinking about the spiritual aspect of the world, how the devil might emerge. And I thought about the devil as a puppet master, or the puppet master behind the possessive demons that were, let's say, like imaginations based on the observations of people being possessed by certain impulses or feelings. So anger would be some kind of demon and stuff like that. And it was bouncing back and forth, and I was almost like diving into some kind of fiction, how the devil was born out of our negative aspects of the psyche and stuff. And I mean, I have the note in total in because I didn't do anything with that. But for my own work, it was very inspiring, and it was also a very pleasurable experience also to think and write about that. And I think or for me, it deepened my understanding because I now was able to kind of deal with the idea of impulses and with or more, with a more complex view on it, not just with in a scientific way, but more also in a more, let's say, spiritual way, but also yeah, or full stop. I don't want to talk so much. Um, yeah, so this was a real world example, and I mean it takes some practice and obviously also some openness, because sometimes you write something and then you feel a little bit, or some people might feel awkward because you write almost speculative, but yeah, I don't think it will be a problem for you. So let's say I'm just talking now to the audience or the fictional audience that is out there. Um, it's fine. It's fine because this also, or it's you should follow the same pattern of distinguishing between writing and editing. So just produce whatever is driving you forward, and then afterward, if something turns out to be not useful or garbage or whatever, then you can just delete it. But there's a lot of value following this impulse if you have it, because more likely than not, you will surprise yourself with creativity. So last one, or do you want to keep on beauty?
No, I'm good. I mean, I could think many examples of mm, things that are beautiful that we have accepted or we use it because they are beautiful,
Mm.
and many even arguments, no. So for
Mm.
me, this is a very interesting thing, no, to think. But for now, I'm good for
Okay.
this topic.
Um, I mean, simple. So one aspect of simpleness was or you already employed. So your note already looks. I mean, you obviously you can follow through because now we are talking, and it would be yeah, for me boring because it would be me just watching you to not boring, but let's say I would be just passive. But yeah, cleaning up the note and cleaning up the ideas is one aspect of simpleness. So the knowledge has a container, and in that case, knowledge or the container is this node. And if the node is clean, then you improve the value of the node, therefore the container of the knowledge, and I would just say as an extension, the knowledge itself. And the other aspect of simpleness, how to use this idea to to make other ideas more simple.
Okay, how to simplify other things using
Mhm.
this as a tool or as an idea. Okay. Wait, sorry. Okay. So what do we do now?
So yeah, the question is, do you have do you have any ideas how to use this the content of this note, to be more general, to simplify other ideas or other frameworks?
I mean, I think that it was really useful to be like the myth, no? The thing that you think that it is true, but in reality is just a myth. So I could apply this structure to other ideas from
Mhm.
different topics. That could simplify other things. I mean, I would need to think, no?
Mhm.
But mm, for example, I mean, we could do the myth of the very productive person, and I could do the same,
Mhm.
and then do the opposite, no? How to be really productive, no? That many times the problem is not working harder; it's just to choose or to know what are the things that generate value. So
Mhm.
that could be a way to simplify other ideas that I have.
Mhm. Okay, so the idea would be um, using or applying the way how you solved, quote unquote, solve the problem, and then apply it to other problems. Mm?
Yes.
So this would be so it's this is one step in the meta layer. So you learned, so this would be abstracting out the way how you solve this problem to a thinking tool, and then applying the thinking tool to other problems. Yeah. So a more direct way. So I'm trying to see something. A more direct way would be, for example, um, I would say or for me, the rejection of the myth and the consequences of in the realms of utility, meaning how or the setting up your workflow differently based on the rejection of the myth would make the workflow actually, or for me, it makes it very simple. So how to come up with new ideas. Normally, let's say if you assign to the myth, it would be very complicated because you need to set up your life as a genius, a lonely genius. So you need to, I don't know, like listen to specific music, take drugs, or don't take drugs, please. I don't know if YouTube now will attack me, but you take all insane drugs and you go to Burning Man and you do all this like chaotic stuff that you feel now introduces enough chaos, so you have enough chaos that can bring or that can bring life to the creative spark that you need. And for me, it's a very simple strategy to come up with ideas. Meaning, I just like dig in my heels and then I submit to the, let's say, to the already walk path of other people, and I just try to get it right. And then it's very straightforward, and I don't feel myself that I engage in like a very um, I would say like any crazy stuff to come up with new ideas. It's not that I need to do a lot. It's very simple, and my own life actually is hyper boring. So I just like wake up early, train. Now with my daughter, I'm getting her ready for kindergarten, and then I sit and especially if I have the time to do some let's say work with my Zettelkasten, then I just do pick up a task, and it might be process a book, process a source, or dive into a topic that I already prepared with like potential source articles and stuff like that, and then I um, start working if I start something new, and I can trust the process. So it's or the simplification comes into the or stems from the simplification of my approach to coming up with new ideas that I then can provide to other people in the case I feel that they are valuable in a sense that they can solve a problem, or yeah, it's difficult I don't know how to state it, but to solve a problem that people aren't aware of, for example. So this would be kind of like a surplus utility.
So yes, now I see it. I could simplify my whole workflow
Mhm.
thanks to this idea, no? Because now I can say these things are not useful for creativity. So I can remove them and I can go directly to the useful ideas, no? I can simplify the amount of things that I was doing before.
Mhm.
It is in that sense, no? That you use this idea to simplify, in this case, my workflow.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I mean, I already did this, but it was implicit because for me now it's self-evident. No, for example,
Mhm.
now I process the book differently because now
Mhm.
it is what you say that I want to surrender to those ideas, and when I understand them, I will think on my own to see if I can improve it. But it is really simple for me now.
Mhm.
Before it was no, I want to have my own system of tags or things like that. No, and now it's super simple. I just take a book that is useful and read it, process it, and then in the long run, I will have my ideas. But there is no pressure for me
Mhm.
to have ideas now or in a month.
Mhm.
Mm, Okay. Yes, I like this.
Yeah, it worked out fine. So we don't need other like prepared material or ideas. So, but what you can see now is you created or like this, we create a lot of depth on an idea. And did you know in which cohort of the Zellcast introduction course you were? Was it the first even?
The first one.
Aha. So you aren't, oh, perhaps you watched the other recording. So the what I call the note-taking strategy is then the way how you decide, because now you might assume, okay, this is the amount of work that I need to invest in each node to make the Zettel custom work, or something like that, and this is not the case. So you need to have a commitment strategy when you go deep on an idea. Because if an idea is not that valuable, so you might process it, and it's kind of like deciding how far you want to climb up the mountain. So level one of commitment is just to like write down the idea and know what you would do next if you want to go deep. So if you're confident in what you would do next, so you can even write the to do or write the what you would do as a comment on the note. This would be good enough. So it doesn't need to be like you need to be like hyper sure that this is an atomic idea, or that it's cleaned up, or what type of knowledge building block or whatever. This is not necessary, because you can do it later. And if you feel that this now, or like going deep as opposed to do to process other ideas or going deep on other ideas is a worse deal, then it's better to leave the idea in your Zettelkasten, and your Zettelkasten will just like hold the idea for you for later use. Level two is to get the idea right. So level two of commitment would be, for example, identifying the knowledge building block. So in that case, the knowledge building block, I think, is a model, because the myth tries to map out elements, or it takes elements of reality and brings them together. In that case, it's let's say a simple model, meaning it's an inventory. It's an inventory of this myth, and then you have like it's simple enough. So in that case, you already made available to your future self the elements of the model, and this allowed us. I mean, we didn't follow through completely, but each component now can be dealt individually. So this is why I was happily surprised that this was already so orderly, because we had like immediate access to the components. So this is the benefit of being or having teased out the knowledge building block, because then you have all the tools. Because when you have a model, for example, you can attack individual components, the relationship or the wholeness or something like that. If you have an argument, you can deal with the logical structure or the truth of the premises, or whatever tools you have available for arguments. And level three would be this. So level three would be using creative frameworks to create depth to the idea. And in that case, the knowledge flower works both as a creative tool, but I think or to me, the knowledge flower has a privileged role in the toolkit, because or my claim is that these five aspects are actually value-giving aspects to the knowledge component of or the knowledge nature of the idea, let's say. As opposed, for example, so, and not opposed because it's a bad creative technique or something like that, but opposed to a more open creative or open framework, which would be the idea compass. So the idea compass just envisions directions of the idea. So you place the idea in the middle, and then I hope I don't butcher it completely, but north would be where comes the idea from, what's the origin of the idea, something like that. South would be what are the implications, what you can derive from it, and stuff like that. East would be what is similar, and west would be what is opposite. Or I don't know if I mixed up east and west. And this obviously is very open, and it's not specific to the nature of knowledge. And this is why how I make the distinction. So obviously there are a lot of like creative frameworks and thinking tools. So you just need to open up a book by Edward de Bono, for example, with thinking frameworks and thinking tools. So, or I can't make anything from my head. So I'm just reading it, by the way, now on the toilet, how to teach children how to think. So I'm prepared when my daughter I mean, she thinks, but when she starts to think in a way that you would accept it as thinking and not, yeah, whatever children do. But there are like a lot of like different frameworks on how to like create depth on an idea. And the knowledge flower, I think, or for me, it's a privileged one because it attains to the knowledge of, it attains to the nature of knowledge. So this is why I put it on a privileged point, but you can use whatever framework it is. So this would be the creative aspect. So level one would be just make it good enough. Level two of commitment is to try to be correct, let's say, about whatever you are dealing with. So get to the essence of the idea. Think about the knowledge building block. So if it's argument, you tease out the logical form and the separate premises and conclusion like neatly and stuff like that. And then level three of commitment is yeah, dive deep and use creative tools and creative frameworks. And then obviously you would just pick and choose. So if you feel that an idea is really useful, and we did this in before. So I asked you, what is an idea that you're excited about? Because this doesn't make sense for an idea. So it's not or yeah, this is what I said explicitly. Even I said, don't pick an idea that you feel is good for the sake of the exercise or even for the sake of the demonstration of the knowledge flower, but pick something that excites you. Because if it doesn't excite you, you don't have the psychological intensity necessary to actually dive deep because it doesn't make sense. It's the same. So we could dive into the depth of a telephone number. So we would take out the Kabbalah and number mythology, and we could do something with a telephone number. But I don't think, or perhaps we could manage it just for the insanity of it. But it's it wouldn't be we wouldn't feel any inspiration like immediately from the idea. So the inspiration is necessary, and this is why I like the note-taking strategy based or within the Zettelkasten method also as a strategy of commitment because you need to straddle both. So you need to be aware that there are a lot of ideas and you need to be somewhat like quote unquote efficient with the processing. But at the same time, you need to create depth with some ideas. So you need to spend, or you should spend some time creating depth and spending time in the depth, because this is where creative thinking happens and where you can create surplus value, or way better. And this is how you need to straddle. So you need to straddle the horizontal layer, meaning like learning more and more ideas. So you increase your breadth, but you also need to go vertically and increase depth. And this like levels of commitment and the decision tree. I don't think it's a tree. Perhaps the two-step decision thing is a guide when you go deep and when not.
Yes,
So
I mean that is difficult, not to manage. To
mhm.
I mean now with time, for me it's easier, not to know when I'm investing my time because before I
Mhm.
was investing my time very with high risk, no low reward, no.
Yeah.
But it is like that is how to manage the risk of going deep because
Yeah.
I mean, it is always useful, but there are opportunity cost,
Yeah,
no?
exactly. It's about it's the exact term I thought about. It's about opportunity cost. So I go deep. Also, for let's take three different situations. So now my week is a little bit different, but let's say when I'm able to settle down in a more in a routine that's more let's say more comfortable to me, I have three types of days. The one type of day is working on a specific project that I need to finish. Um, that means when I engage with my Zettelkasten there, I just engage with notes that are important for them. So let's assume I will write or I will continue to write my book on habits. Then I would just go or even consider depth when I write about habits and think about habits in my Zettelkasten. When I have a second type of day and in my let's say my perfect schedule, and this is 2 times per day in which I focus on a particular interest. So this means I most of the time it means I pick a book, and it's for me it's not important that I process the book, but it's important that the book is just a thread that allows me to orientate myself, and then I try to learn as much as I can about the topic. So if I would, for example, read, let's say, okay, here's not a good example. What would be a good example? Let's say I read Kant, and I don't know what will drive me to read Kant any time more, because it's actually like one of the most difficult reads out there. But what I then will do is either I want to pretend that I want to become an expert on Kant, or I want to really understand deontological moral theory or something like that. And the book will just be my, let's say, the external manifestation. But I have a learning drive. This would be happen 2 times per week. And then it's not even one day, but it's a couple of hours on Sunday mornings. There I am free to indulge my hobbies. So I wake up a couple of hours before my family wakes up, and then I have actually some free time. And then I only go deep on analyzing the depth layer of an anime or something like that. So I indulge in my fantasy world building hobby, for example. And this would inform my, let's say, the risk that I want to take. Because let's assume now it's Monday. I'm working on my main project, and I have an idea on how to, let's say, on how to describe the ambition of the main character of an anime or something like that. I wouldn't go deep, because going deep on this idea would eat 1 hour of my time, and this would make me ineffective in moving forward my project. I will just write the note down like minimally as possible, and then later on Sunday I would return to the note, and then it makes sense to go deep. So this would be one framework of thinking about that, and I would say a two or having 2 types of working or 2 types of working days is a good mix. So very few days you follow your inspiration and your interest, because this makes you efficient, because then you can ride on on your enthusiasm, and this will create a lot. And as long as you or when you have safeguards for your interests, then you're good to go. Because if you deviate too much, obviously then you go into the realm of hobby. Because for me, for example, I mean, I like to write short stories for my children, and I might be able, let's say, to like in the future to create a book on short stories and sell it or whatnot. So this would be perhaps some, let's say, monetary use of this, but this is not really promising. And when you work on a project, you are obviously much more effective, because then you're actually working on a project. But at the same time, you will cut your thinking process quite some time, because then you think outside of the benefit of the project. So I would be able to produce more knowledge and write more when I think about the enemy, or for example, on a Monday. But at the same time, I'm not that effective. And to straddle this, so having efficient sessions where you can like ride the wave of inspiration, but at the same time being effective, I think or at least it's a good working hypothesis to have like few days in which you can actually follow your inspiration, and then in the majority of the time you will eat the stick and just work on projects, and then don't follow through with ideas that are just for hobby or just inspirationally derived. So Again, me talking too much. So I will, yeah, I would say I will end the exercise here. I mean, I think at least I'm a little bit exhausted. I don't know what about you, but I think tackling another idea would be now
No, 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 too much.
a little bit. So don't quit the talk now. I just will stop recording. Bye bye to the Zettlers and don't no bye bye to Fernando yet.